So you have price lists, you went to ASD, you got the t-shirts because there were people giving out t-shirts. And now what do you do? So there could be a couple different places where you're at. You could be overwhelmed, you could be underwhelmed. And so we're going to talk about how you can work with all of those kind of states of being. Now, there might be one or two of you who aren't as familiar with who I am. So I used to be a youth minister. In fact, I don't know if you guys have seen this picture up close. This is actually Rochelle when she was like 15 or 16. I used to be a youth minister and I loved what I did, but the pay was not quite enough to make ends meet, especially when my son started having some health issues. There's my son right there. There's me with like the worst haircut I've ever had in my life. And what we decided to do is we took $100 and we started going from garage sale to garage sale, buying things, reselling them. We moved from Craigslist to eBay to Amazon to our own store. You can see that we have enlisted my daughter here to help. That was a couple years ago. These are really old pictures, so these are not bolos. And then the picture with all the packages you guys might have seen in a couple of presentations, that was 1 day of shipping in Q4, which is why you have to be really careful when you're merchant fulfilling. And at that moment when I decided that I was going to do this, I really became an entrepreneur. In less than a couple of years, we built a 7-figure business. I have a podcast called The Unstoppable Entrepreneur Show and a book called The Unlikely Entrepreneur. And we're really committed that, that we want to really help people not only be successful in their Amazon business, but finally get the results that they really wanted. I recently was asked, if time and money wasn't a consideration, what would I be doing with my life? And for me, I would want to be coaching and working with other entrepreneurs. So I've been, growing our Amazon business and still doing eBay as well. But we've also been looking at doing more coaching and courses because that's really kind of where my heart lies. So in tonight's webinar, we're going to be talking about how to process lists, how to use unprofitable lists as lead sources without attending more trade shows. So we're going to show you how to use kind of what you had as a basis to start your wholesale inventory. And you guys are geniuses to be starting in wholesale this time of year, because having that inventory that you can go to the well over and over and over again and restock is going to be invaluable as you guys hit those summer clearance droughts. There's a couple of times in the year coming up where there's droughts, but also you want to have experience with these wholesale vendors before Q4 comes so that you can really make the right buying decisions as we head into Christmas. And I know it seems crazy to talk about Christmas, but that's really where we need to be thinking. So, and then after we're going to have question and answer, and at the end, we're also going to be raffling off a call with our team, one coaching call with our team, and then we're also going to be raffling off 2 reimbursement evaluations. So you can send we'll ask you to send some reports. You'll take out the ASINs and the titles, and we'll tell you exactly which cases you need to file with Amazon to get your money back. We've had clients get as much as $3,000 or more back from doing these evaluations. So at ASD, I heard a couple things. I have price lists and now I'm completely overwhelmed. I don't know how to process them, or I feel like I didn't find anything, so I'm afraid I wasted all my time and all my money going to this event and I don't have anything to show for it. And then the other question is I have questions on new listings. Which one should I do? Should I create this listing or not? And so we're going to be addressing some of those items tonight. So what we're going to be covering is getting more price lists, analyzing those lists, and using the lists, even if they're completely worthless, as a starting point to find new lists. So that's one of the main things that we're going to be covering tonight. Now, remember, this is our process, so you're going to want to take what works for you and discard what you want. This is your business, so you get to say how it goes. We really tend towards smaller manufacturers, higher margins, and that works really, really well for us. But there's lots of other business models that you can use. We're just sharing one method that works well for us. So if you're in the place where you're saying, I have price lists, but now what do I do with them? So we're going to look at So the first thing we're going to do is we want to disqualify and sort our lists. Then we're going to analyze the ones that have potential. And the reason we're going to disqualify and sort lists first is because one of the things that I see people getting caught up in wholesale is they run list after list, but there were some signs early on that maybe this list wasn't worth their time. And while they could have been running other lists that could have had higher potential, they get bogged down in a really big catalog or maybe 2 or 3 really big catalogs. And then when they don't see results from that, they get very discouraged. So we want to disqualify and sort before we analyze. And then once we find profitable items, we want to prioritize. And then we want to make sure that we're buying and making good deals as we buy. So the first thing is, people, I had somebody email me and they said, I went to your presentation at ASD. I was really excited. I tried to go get lists and I didn't, I found that I wasn't able to get lists from a lot of the companies that I was approaching. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how do you get more lists, whether you're actually in person at a trade show or if you are approaching somebody outside of a trade show, like on a trade show, no show kind of way where you're just emailing them. So in order to get more lists, we really focus on small manufacturers. Usually we like to, the size company that we like to focus on is usually the companies that you will see on Shark Tank in maybe a year or two. We have brought to market and worked with a lot of companies that ended up being on Shark Tank about a year or 2 years, sometimes 3 after we picked up their line. We stay away from big companies, and there's a couple reasons why. First, you're never going to place a big enough order with Lego for them to really care about you as a wholesale buyer. And more than likely, there's going to be a lot of other people competing in that area that are going to be able to buy at a bigger bulk and get a better discount. And big companies are more likely to be something that's going to be on clearance, and retail arbitrage is going to be coming into effect, and that's going to affect the marketplace as well. So, one of the biggest mistakes I see people make in wholesale is they try to take their retail arbitrage finds and translate that into wholesale. In general, you're probably not going to be able to do that unless you have some really unique items that you're restocking in the stores. Liquidators and distributors are very unlikely to give you a price list. And the reason for that is because the prices that they have and the inventory that they have and where they're getting from it is a little bit more proprietary. So they want you to actually commit to making a purchase before they're really going to give you any information. So if you were at ASD and you were in the South Hall in the upper level and you found out that you were having a really hard time getting price lists, then probably the reason is you were looking at liquidators and distributors. And that's also true in the health and beauty section at ASD. So if that's something that you were coming into, if you were in those areas, that could be a reason why. When people come to me and they say that they're having a hard time getting email lists, or people are saying that they're going to email them lists and they don't get them, I usually 9 out of 10 times they do not have a branded email address. So when you approach a booth, or if you are, if you're calling or emailing, you're going to be getting sized up to see if you're worth their time. And if you have like partygirl36@yahoo.com as your email, that doesn't exactly scream like e-commerce professional. So having, a name at your domain, so robin@robinstore.com, is going to help give you a level of professionalism and show that you're committed to what you're doing. So I do recommend, if you're going to be in a niche, that you consider getting a website. It's not required, but the branded email, having a domain-based email, is very important in wholesale. And then make sure that if you're reaching out with a template, so like you took my Wholesale 1.0 course or even my 2.0 course, take the template that we use for contacting those vendors, and you want to customize it. It's weird if 500 people all send them a request all around the same time and that all the exact same words. So change the order of the paragraphs, rewrite a sentence or two, and then add a sentence or two about the company. Say, I saw your Zootopia light switches and I just got really excited because that's a brand that's, we're already doing a lot of light switches in other areas, and I think that this would be a really great fit for us. So it shows that you've actually done some investigation on them. So getting more price lists, those are some of the big things that you would want to do. And when you approach the smaller manufacturers, they're going to be more likely to get your price list. But we're going to be talking about some of the things that you can do before you even determine if you really want to chase down that price list. So if there's no list, you see something that's interesting, but they say that they don't have a list, or they say they're going to email you a list, then you're either going to take a picture. If you ask first, you're going to notate something, write a note to yourself, send yourself an email, and we're going to go through this disqualification process. And some of you guys have seen this process before, but we're going to go through the disqualification process first to see if it's even worth going after getting that price list. And if they don't have a price sheet, they might have a sales sheet, which just gives you a list of the items that they're selling. And if they can give you at least a sales sheet, saying, do you have any, even as just a brochure of their items. And if you know that there's a couple items, you can say, oh, well, I understand there's no price list, but about how much does this wholesale for? That helps a lot. So you can use the sales sheets or notes to make inquiries. Now, you want to make sure that you let them know that you're serious. So if you have actually done this disqualification process, we're going to talk about in a second, and you know that you are really serious, you think that there's a good likelihood that you are going to buy, then you want to say, I am just about ready to place an order. Do you have an order form that I can fill out? Or I'm looking to place an order. What paperwork do you need from me? Do you need my reseller's license? Is there any other paperwork that you need? Now, sometimes they might ask for references, and that's anybody you've done business with. So you could use a coach if you have one. You could use other vendors. Maybe usually I found they very rarely even call them, kind of like just like a job background checks. Very rarely are they going to do that work. They just want to see that you're established in the industry. And if you don't have any references, then you can just say, you know what, we're just getting started. We have had a lot of great success in a similar area, and we're really looking to grow in this area, and we think your product would be the great place to start. So be honest, but be confident. You bring something to the table that's really valuable. That knowledge and being able to help them manage their presence on Amazon is something not everybody that comes to buy from them, and even not every Amazon seller that comes to buy from them can really offer. So when we get price lists, we sort them into one of these 4 areas. Now, the disqualified pile is circled for a reason, because usually that means that they're going in the trash. So what we do is when we get the list, we're going to sort them into yes, no, later, or disqualified. So I'm going to go through what qualifies for each pile. Now, what we do is if we're in a trade show, we'll do all of this kind of at dinner. We'll, right before dinner, we'll sort them into the 4 piles, and then we're just going to send the yeses to our VA to run the numbers. And then when you get home, you can do like these gigantic catalogs. They send you an encyclopedia of products. That's something that you can do after you've run all of the shorter lists that you'll be able to process quicker. Because we want to, if you can go through one catalog that maybe 500 other people are going through, or you can go through 20 other companies that might just have one sheet. They might even only have one product, but you can get them knocked out really quickly. Then you can actually get more small orders placed through those smaller companies than going through those gigantic catalogs. And so there's a time and a place for those catalogs, but we usually prioritize them after the smaller lists. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to see if we're going to disqualify any of these price lists. So the first question we ask is, can I sell it on Amazon? Yes or no? Is Amazon selling all of it? We've seen that generally Amazon either carries, 5 to 20 SKUs of a line, or they carry the entire line. They're carrying the entire line, and there's not like a bundle that's screaming out our name, hot dog and hamburger kind of relationship where everything in the bundle sells well individually, and we can still make it less expensive to buy it as a bundle than to buy it individually. Unless we see something screaming out for us, we're going to pass on those because there's other areas we want to focus our energy on first. So can I sell it on Amazon? And that means going back to that first one, can I sell it on Amazon means, is it a category I'm gated in? That maybe it's a perfume that I can't send in FBA. Or maybe it's just an item that is not allowed on Amazon. So like, for example, marijuana, paraphernalia, vape pens, those kind of things. So can I sell it on Amazon? Am I going to be competing directly with Amazon? And then the next thing I look at, if I don't have a price sheet, is I say, is the price at or above MSRP on Amazon? Because most hard goods, now people talk about hard goods and soft lines, hard lines and soft lines. So soft lines are going to be things like clothes. There are some categories like health and beauty and grocery that don't follow that, a keystone model like most hard lines. So what in home and kitchen, toys, sporting goods, a lot of those kind of categories. In general, you're going to see that the wholesale price is going to be about 50% of the retail price. So you can kind of get an idea even without a price list, generally kind of saying, well, it looks like it would probably be around this price. But if the price on Amazon is already lower than it is on their website or below their MSRP, we know that there's probably less than 50% room there, which means after Amazon fees, there's really probably not going to be a lot of profit. Now, if you're a really low ROI person, you might still decide to run some of those numbers as long as it's not below so much. But for us, it has to be either at or above MSRP in order for us to continue pursuing the price list further. Then of those items, we're going to be looking at the rank, and we're going to be saying, is this within 5% of my buying criteria? So what we're going to do on qualified lists, so if it looks kind of, when I eyeball things, if I just kind of run 2 or 3 items and I'm kind of seeing things, then that's what I'm seeing. Then what I'm going to be doing from that point forward is I'm going to run Jungle Scout. Now, we use Jungle Scout in a very different way than most people use Jungle Scout. Most people use Jungle Scout to identify if there's enough volume to justify either a private label or bringing that item. We use Jungle Scout as a screen scraping thing, basically. So what we'll do is, let's say we were going to bring, we found this really cool product called Legos that nobody had ever heard of. So we're pretending that Legos isn't a giant brand. We would search Legos with Jungle Scout, and we would refine with extra filters. So we're going to, I would either outsource this to a virtual assistant, or this is something sometimes Rochelle does. And we're going to run it with those extra filters, and we can talk more about that in the Q&A. Rochelle's on the line and can help us with that a little bit later. And then we're just going to kind of really quick glance at the price list and glance at the payout from Jungle Scout, and we're going to see, does it look like there's room? So I use an example here of this Mindwear, and so I have this is an old price list, but on the when we pulled Jungle Scout, I wasn't sure how many of you guys would be able to read that smaller one, so I have the bigger version down below. So it says that the net is 23.22 on that first one. So if I kind of glance at the price list and I see that it's, $10, then now I see, okay, looks like there's some really good potential profit in here. I already can see the rank. You can see on Jungle Scout, what kind of seller it is, if it's FBA, merchant fulfilled, or if Amazon's selling it. We really completely ignore F&G, the estimated sales and revenue. We're not really interested in that at all. We're most interested in gathering the ASINs, finding out the net, and looking at the sales rank and the category that they're in to make sure that, because you can't look at sales rank without the category, because, for example, this home and kitchen one, this one right here that snuck in a home and kitchen, 12,000 in home and kitchen is very different than 12,000 in toys. So that gives us a different idea of that sales velocity. So now that we've done that, so this is a picture of the price list. So right here you can see we've got the qubits down here. So qubits is 1635. That's the net that we got from Jungle Scout. And then normally I would just use my eyes, and I wouldn't put it in a spreadsheet at this point. So I would just look at qubits, and I'd look at qubits and go across and say 1275. So 1612, that doesn't even come close. So I would look at a couple of these and see if I could find anything that was even close. So when I see this, when I see that they're this close, then that tells me this line is oversaturated. There's more demand than there is supply right now. And so they're not selling at a premium. So it's no longer, this isn't a line that we can make the profit margins that we really want. So I can check a couple of these. I'm looking for outliers, but I'm kind of eyeballing it and saying, this doesn't look like it's really worth me running every single item on to see if it's profitable. So I would probably disqualify it. So now, if we had seen that on that item, though, that they were selling for where it was close, maybe even if the margins didn't quite match, if they were only 40% on the ones that I checked, that means that we're going to actually go through line by line every item. We want to look for every bundle. We want to look for, every, multi-pack and the original plus the refills and all of those things, right? So we're going to use Jungle Scout to help us find those. And when we put them in the yes pile, it means that we have a possibility of profit. The rank looks like it could be within close of the window of our buying criteria. So we're not looking for exact amounts. We're just kind of spot checking to see if the brand is oversaturated. And then are there some items that Amazon is not selling directly? Because sometimes they'll carry maybe the top best-selling 20 SKUs, but they could have 30 SKUs, which would leave 10 SKUs that maybe don't sell at the same velocity, but still sell well, that we could make a good little profit on restocking and maybe even creating some bundles. Now, the no pile is when the profit isn't close at this time, or Amazon is selling the entire line. So what we would do is we would save that Jungle Scout spreadsheet that we showed you earlier. We would save it as Mindware. And we save these lists, these price lists, because what we'll do is we'll take those ASINs and rerun them later once we know the costs, and we can see, well, it wasn't good before, but maybe 6 months after the trade show, when everybody's come and gone, maybe now it is good. In fact, I actually saw somebody posting that before trade shows, they purposely, on lines that they know that are going to be at the show, they purposely lower the price so they look less attractive to other Amazon sellers. So it can really benefit you to, even if something doesn't look right now, then we can save the list if you think it was close, it was something that piqued your interest. A no doesn't mean we're going to throw it away. It means that we're going to look and say, okay, maybe I want to run this list in 3 to 6 months and see how things have changed with this brand. So, and we actually have a folder that we save it in. So we have a folder that's called dead lists, and then we actually save those. So the ones that go in the later pile are large, overwhelming, big catalogs, usually companies that have over 80 SKUs. The reason that we've saved those for later, and what we would do is we would take a razor blade and we'd cut right down the side of the catalog. We would scan that to a virtual assistant and have them start processing that. The reason that we focus on the smaller item, the smaller list first, is we want to rack up a couple of wins right out of the gate. And if you get stuck, buried in these big, overwhelming catalogs, you could spend 2 or 3 weeks running through and not get anything. Whereas if you're running lots of different companies, you have a better likelihood of having something, because that big catalog could have been picked up by a lot of people. And since it's a big company, it's probably more likely that it's going to be something that might be oversaturated. So now you have your price list, we have them split, and we're going to take the yes pile first. And we're going to be going through those items first. So now you have, with Jungle Scout, you're going to pull down all of the listings and you're going to create a new spreadsheet. And the things that we want to capture are the ASIN, the cost, and then if there's like a product code. So let me just back up so you can see here. So like if I would, if they give you a UPC code, or if you're going to use, like this would be their product code. So when I'm reordering it, I have those product codes. So I want to keep the ASIN, the cost, and the product code. And then I'm going to run it through something like Scan Sheet, Scan Power Evaluate, Scope, one of those programs. And we're going to see, and that will create a list. It'll pull all the data down from Amazon. And then we're going to sort the spreadsheets by your most important buying criteria. So what we do first is we make sure that we get every ASIN that's tied to that brand. So we search first by UPCs. We also look variations of how the brand name was spelled. We look up by the name of the product, the UPC, and then if there could be alternate brand names. So maybe it could be under Lego, it could be under Barbie because it's a Barbie Lego. So we're going to look up under both brand names, make sure we have all of the ASINs. And what we do is we train virtual assistants to help us with that. Once we have all the ASINs and all the costs matched up, we're going to put those into that one of those programs. And what we do is we sort by return on investment, so highest to lowest, and we hide everything on the spreadsheet that's below 70%. And then we sort rank from lowest to highest. And so from there, we can create an idea. We have a much narrower set of items that we're looking at. So we can see exactly what we want to buy, and we're going to place a test buy. So when you save each spreadsheet, you want to save it with the brand name as the top of the spreadsheet, because even if it comes up where there's nothing good, we want to save that spreadsheet so we can rerun it later down the road to see if it's good later, especially with things that could have a seasonality. And then, you can add a tab on an Excel sheet. You can add a little tab. In that second sheet, you can put notes. So I talked to Joe. He said he would extend the show special, whatever it is that you have. We usually keep the notes in the same spreadsheet. And we use ASINs instead of UPC to run these numbers for a couple reasons. One is if there is an assortment, so it comes in red, blue, and green, we want to make sure that we're running the number for red, blue, and green. And the other thing is that UPCs can sometimes not pull up the correct items because they could pull up multiples, or somebody could have listed it with something that wasn't the UPC. So we have found using ASINs, and this is for our lists that, some of you have been following how we create lists for our retail arbitrage as well. We focus on ASINs for our retail arbitrage and our wholesale lists. So very much the same process there, whether or not it's retail or wholesale. So now we have maybe like 5 or 10 lists that you have, 5 or 10 brands that are spreadsheets. So if you're a paper person, or if you are new to this, I would recommend that once you have those items ready, I would like you to print them out and then put them in order of return on investment or how quickly you think it will turn. So some things to consider. You can take a lower ROI if there's no prep. If it's very, if it's something that's small and dense, and so that, that there's not going to be a lot of dimensional weight or a lot of extra costs on, then because that there's going to be less cost for you down the road. So it could actually be the same ROI. So an example, if I have a salt and pepper shaker that's 70% ROI, and then maybe something that comes in a box that all I have to do when you open the box, we have certain items, we just open the box, we put the stickers on, and then we close the box. We don't even have to take them out of the box to sticker them. So even though that item might be 40% instead of 70%, when you take into account the cost of the bubble wrap and the labor, now they're at different playing fields, right? So you want to be considering, is this something that's going to have a lot of prep? Is this something that's going to have a dimensional weight fee? Have I taken into account shipping? Because unless they tell you shipping is free, you should always expect to pay for shipping on wholesale orders. Now, when it comes to bundles and new listings, I would recommend that you always keep that. If you're new to wholesale, I would say less than 10% of your inventory, have it be new listings and new bundles. And because those take time to gather up steam, to get moving, and we want to make sure that we're getting the best bang for our dollar. If you're brand new to wholesale, I always highly recommend that you go with existing listings first. Because if it doesn't work out, if you buy it and it doesn't sell, you won't know, was it my lack of ability to create the listing? Did I not run the right sponsored ads, or was it the product? Because if there's not an existing demand for the product, it's not going to sell no matter how many ads you run. And no, regardless of whether or not it looks like the coolest thing since sliced gluten-free bread, test buy first. We're always going to do a test buy, especially post-show, especially near the show. The reason being is that Amazon is at these shows. So if you go deep, you buy a ton, Amazon could have bought a ton as well. So especially on, these emerging brands, always do a test buy. The amount of money that you're going to save on the 5% discount from the show special or the 10% show discount is not worth having that inventory money tied up if things don't go the way that you planned. So you always want to do those test buys first. So smallest amount that you can order. So if I can order 6, then I'm good with that. Maybe 12 if I'm really confident of a SKU, but I would really prefer 6. If they, and then this is one area where you can definitely negotiate. You can say, I really love your product. I think it will do really, really well. The only thing is I like to place a test buy first. Is there any way that I could order less than a case of each for my first order so I know, so I can have a better idea of the sell-through so I can place a really stronger order in 2 or 3 weeks. So because it's to their benefit too, because you're going to get a better order for them long term. So you can ask if they'll break up a case for you. And then if they won't, buy 3 retail, full price, see how they sell through. And then you can buy that, pallet with confidence because you'll see the sell-through rate. So this especially helps if you're having trouble pulling the trigger on your first wholesale buy. Placing those test buys is very important. So remember, you want to keep niching down. So you might have gone through all of the lists and maybe you didn't find anything. Maybe you found only 2 or 3 items. So maybe you still have a couple of $1,000s that you'd like to spend on wholesale. So what we're going to do now is we're going to be talking about how do you niche down, find other items that weren't at the trade show, so that you can find things that maybe don't have as much competition, find some good items. Before we go into that, one of the nice things that if you can see somebody was close. So it was a niche, but maybe the ranks weren't quite right, or maybe the profit was close but not quite. Ask them what other trade shows they'll be attending this year when you're talking to them. And then you might get a couple of smaller, more niche down shows that might have other products that were not at this show. And you can get them, as soon as that exhibitor list is ready, you could start pursuing that. So you can ask them what other trade shows are they going to be attending. Ask if there's a sales rep. Sales reps are worth their weight in gold because usually they'll carry 10 to 30 lines. So a sales rep, so if somebody's a sales rep for usually a toy or gift line, then they'll have maybe 30 other companies that they represent. And their whole job is to make sure you know about the show specials, to make sure you know that they're having a Q4 discount. So sales reps can get you access to a ton of different kinds of product lines. Now, it's very important that you represent us Amazon sellers well when you work with sales reps. So make sure you're always completely honest with them about where you sell, have integrity in the things that you do. Make sure that you're not wasting their time. You want to, go into a meeting with them already knowing what lines they sell and what lines are okay for you to sell on Amazon, because their time is very valuable. They live off a commission-based arrangement. So it's really important that you be ready to buy after you've run those lists from those sales reps. So let's talk about how do you niche down. So let's say I saw those qubits and I was like, they were close. They were such a cool thing. I really thought those were cool. I thought my son would really like them. Let me see what else I can find. So I would pull down that item. I would pull that item on Amazon, and I'd look at customers who viewed this, also viewed that. So, what I would do is I would look at, the people who bought this also bought that. And then, so I clicked on, I think, one of these. I think I clicked on this far one, or I think it was the set or the gravity maze. And so once, oh yeah, it was the gravity maze. So I clicked on the gravity maze, and I know that Think Fun doesn't like Amazon sellers because I've been in the specialty toys for a while. But then I'm starting to look at what are the other companies that, is there any companies here that maybe I haven't talked to before? So then I clicked on another one, and I clicked 2 more, and I ended up getting to these easy bioresearch bacteria science kits. I've never heard of that brand. In fact, it looks like it could be a private label brand even. So when I started to look at that, I would be writing down the brand names of these different companies. And then I found this Giant Microbes. And so I would start writing down the names of the different brands. So I'd just start writing down Giant Microbes. And I would create a list of other brands that I could approach that are in a similar space because I was already interested in one thing. So I probably have some base knowledge on that first thing. So in specialty toys, I have some base knowledge there, right? So if you saw John Deere tractors, you might go and say, I'm going to click on things that are similar because people who were looking at John Deere tractors, you already know that John Deere tractors, that space, what people who are looking for in that area are, what they're trying to buy. And so you can kind of click through, find other companies that maybe sell other similar things. So then what we do, you can do is you can use the keyword inspector and do a reverse search and search and use some of the ASINs of these companies. And then you can do a search for those keywords and then create more lists of different brands and start to contact those companies. So you can start to kind of niche down even further and find companies that are probably still a little too small to actually be at the trade shows yet. And they're more likely to take you on and be willing to give you an exclusive because they're really excited to get their brand out there. So as you're approaching these different companies, we want to turn those no's into a lead by asking what other trade shows they attend, register for those niche shows, and keep drilling down as we go through. So you have price lists. Now we've disqualified and sorted them. We analyzed the ones that were good, and then we prioritized them and we were ready to place a buy. So when we prioritize, I usually use highest ROI first, and I do a test buy to see how quickly they're going to sell through. And then I'm going to do established items first. So if I have to choose between bringing a new item to market or a new bundle or a new brand, I'm always going to do the established item first because we already have a baseline of how those are going to sell. And then I'm going to place the new to market item second because it's going to take me time and resources to create the listing, to take the pictures, to run the sponsored ads. And so that item is not going to turn as quickly for me. So those come second after we've placed our initial order for the established brands first. So when you go to buy, you're going to ask them to extend your so special. So, you might have seen them at the show and they said, for the show, we'll give you net 30, which is basically 30 days to pay. Or maybe we'll give you free shipping. Maybe they had an offer where, if you bought this, then they would send you these bonus items these new items for you to try. So you're going to say, hey, I know I couldn't place the order at the show and I can't place this order until next week. Is there any way you can extend the show special until next week? And a lot of times they will do that. You can ask for net 30, 60, or 90, the way that I usually do this. So that gives you 30 days to pay. Net 30 would be 30 days to pay. Net 90 would be 90 days to pay. What I usually do is place the first order on a credit card. And then when I go to reorder, I say, hey, I wanted to let you know I have this reorder. Wanted to see if there's any show specials, if I could get free shipping, or if I up my order a little bit, if I would qualify for free shipping. And I'm assuming that since everything went good the first time, we can do maybe net 30 or net 60 on this order. The worst thing they're going to do is say no. So we just ask for it. Ask for free shipping, see what you can get. And sometimes the answer is no. You want to make sure that you've run the numbers with the shipping and without the shipping to make sure that it's still profitable if you do have to pay for the shipping. And then One of the things, sometimes, there was a company that we wanted to bring, you had to order 50 of every SKU. So what we decided to do was we said, I would really like to place a test order. We ordered 2 of each SKU and then give us to us at the price of ordering at least 50 of each SKU. So we got a really great deal, and we were able to try a whole bunch of different SKUs and see which one sold best for us. In fact, that company they actually shipped them for Amazon. They prepped them for Amazon for us for several years, and they never charged us for it because we helped them bring their items to Amazon, and we created a really good, lasting relationship with them. So, you can always ask for a lower quantity for them to break up a case. Don't be afraid to ask. Now, some of you might be like, I'm a little overwhelmed. That was a little over my head. That was too much. And some of you might be a little, well, that still didn't answer my question. So if you're overwhelmed can always be fixed. So if you're overwhelmed, we're going to write out the things that need to be done. And, if you're in our academy, we're going to be breaking out these steps a lot more. So don't feel like, this is the baseline and you have to figure everything else out from here. So you're going to write out the things that need to be done, create timelines, and then honor your word. So if you say, okay, I'm going to run 2 lists a day, it's important for you to start knowing yourself as somebody who does what they say that they're going to do, because that will allow you to trust that when you write something down, it's actually going to happen. So when you write it down, you'll be able to leave it on the paper and not have it constantly in your head buzzing around all the time. So, work your plan, plan your work, and then work your plan. So plan your work and then work your plan. If you're moving from retail arbitrage or online arbitrage into wholesale, I strongly advise you to taper and move slowly. Don't abandon retail arbitrage and move completely into retail arbitrage all in 1 or 2 months. It's going to take work, and wholesale is a very delayed gratification. You should expect to work for 4 to 8 weeks on wholesale before you really start to see the money coming in, and the money that's a reward for that work to come back to you, because it's going to take time for you to find the items, and then you have the extra gap of waiting from the time that you order the item until it gets to you, and then prep before you can see the sale. So it adds about 2 weeks onto your sales cycle. So if normally in retail arbitrage, if you could buy it and have it sold within 3 weeks, we're adding 2 weeks onto there, depending on how quickly that company ships. And again, plan your work and then work your plan. So in that, we've been talking to a lot of people because people have been asking us for accountability. They've been asking for more broken out steps, more information on wholesale. So if you're part of the academy, this is completely free, and we're doing 2 to 5. Our goal, we're going to have 5 sessions of 5 webinars like this. And the goal out of the 5 sessions is to get 2 to 5 wholesale accounts, and to train a virtual assistant to help you with the process, especially the process of reaching out to get new price lists and the process of starting to match up the price list numbers so that you can focus on just evaluating the deals, so that the legwork of getting the data is being handled by somebody at that's a much more affordable employee than you are, and that you're able to focus on evaluating the data and then making the buy and then getting them into the warehouse. So I want you to, for those of you who are trying to decide, is wholesale really worth going forward in this? Is this something I really want to pursue? What would your business be like if you had access to profitable inventory without having to spend hours a week scanning in store aisles? Because once we started to get ourselves out of the store aisles, when we weren't scanning, 24 to 30 hours a week, what it allowed us to do is start to really work on our business and not in our business. So we weren't packing boxes. We weren't necessarily doing as much in the store finding the product, but it allowed us to really take care of the things in our business that we had been neglecting, like, Are we buying too deep? Have we looked at our inventory turn? Are we getting our reimbursements done? All of those things that you know you should be doing, but you don't have time. This is how you start to find time, whether you're doing it through retail arbitrage or through wholesale. It's to create these systems so that you can find consistent inventory. So you're not always at the whim of a sale, that you're able to find that consistent inventory. So the sessions are going to be every other week, and it's going to be talking about how to find vendors, gathering the price lists, because you want to be able to do both. And we're going to be talking about hiring and training a virtual assistant, somebody who's going to work from you, usually from another country, unless you would like to have somebody local do it. And we want to buy back your time so that you can spend more time with your family and that you can spend more time working on those other things in your business. We're going to be talking about list analysis, vendor negotiation, because that's going to give your business the edge. If you can negotiate free shipping and 5% off on a couple of accounts that you have that are evergreen, that you're able to order all the time, that's going to give you a huge advantage to be able to scale long term. Then we're going to talk about how do you determine whether to bring and how to bring new items to Amazon. We're going to be talking about how do we reorder with a system. So we have a spreadsheet that's going to help you do that. And then how do you niche down further into those wholesale accounts? Because ultimately we want to get you down to a kind of several small niches across different categories, so that if Amazon changes the fees for clothing, or if Amazon changes the rules for something else, that your business is still able to endure through that, right? And then the other thing we want to make sure is that you know a product, you get to the point where you start to know that niche so well that you're able to buy things that maybe the numbers don't really give a true indication of how that item is going to sell. So we want to help you become masterful in the areas that you're wholesaling so you can get the best bang from your inventory dollar. Now, again, if you're part of Academy, Momentum, or one-on-one mentoring, this is completely free. If you want to find out more about the Academy, you can do that there. If we know some people don't want to be part of the Academy, they just want the one course. And I know you guys have seen this, and some of you are like, oh, I hate that when they do the thing, right? But it's got 5 sessions, the workshop. You're going to have access to the Wholesale 1, my original wholesale that I did with course I did with Jim Cockrum, and then I have a 2.0 that I broke out into very small sections. So very bite-sized pieces. We have things like industry-specific information. We have things like how to use Jungle Scout videos. You'll have our hiring and training virtual assistants course, which is a $47 value, our replenishment sheet, which is a $19 value. We're going to do a bonus Q&A session because I know that there's some people that live in the UK that have been frustrated with some of the webinars because they want to be able to ask questions, and this time of night just does not work for them. So we're going to be doing a bonus Q&A session, and there's be Q&A at the end of every session, in the 5-session workshop there. And so there'll be an extra bonus Q&A session that you can ask questions at. You'll have access to our private wholesale workshop Facebook group. I put that at $40, but really we found that camaraderie has really been priceless. Of course, if that was a $410 value, but if all that you did was able to get you 2 profitable wholesale vendors, would that be worth it? And if all of this did was allow you to have more predictability in your inventory and cash flow, would it be worth you investing the time and your resources to really commit to having this be the year that you get yourself out of the clearance aisle, that you really start to develop the systems for long-term business success? Because we want to free up your time and allow you to spend less time sourcing and more time working really on your business and a long-term strategy. So if you just want the wholesale workshop instead of the entire academy, then we're offering that for $97. The reason we're doing that is we heard that people really want help in this area, and then we're really committed that our customers have the knowledge and the accountability that it takes in order to win. So we really want to make sure that we take care of the people that are part of our community, and we know that there's some people that maybe the academy isn't something you need, but you are interested in doing this. So I'm going to start looking at questions. Rochelle, if you could come out and help me field the questions. If you're interested in registering for the whole wholesale workshop, you just go to busfromthenest.com/WW for wholesale workshop. If you register between now and midnight tomorrow, there'll be a group coaching call that you'll have access to. And then we're also going to do a reimbursement evaluation, and you'll get that for free as well. So if you register between now and the midnight of the 16th, then you'll have access to that reimbursement evaluation. And then Rochelle, don't let me forget to raffle off the coaching hour and the 2 reimbursement evaluations. So.
Oh yes, I won't forget that. So a lot of questions center around, especially in the poll, I saw that a lot of people are interested in running the number. So it's probably one of the bigger questions we get. We talked a little bit about the Jungle Scout process. Robin went a little bit into it. So what I did is I actually brought it up. And Robin, if you wanted to switch screens really quick, I just kind of brought up a quick example so they could kind of see what my process looks like when I'm doing that.
Yeah, I think, okay, so change presenter.
Just let me know if you can see my screen. Oh, okay. You guys see it?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I took, I couldn't find an exact price sheet because I did this pretty quickly, but this is a purchase order. So this is, obviously is an item we've purchased in the past. It's called Sticky Fingers. It's a grocery category. So just to kind of show you guys exactly what these are priced at, they're about $3 per item. They come in a 6-pack for about $17.54. Come out just a little bit below $2 or $3, but I'm rounding up a little bit. So as you see right here, I did a search on Google. This is just kind of how I start. So I'm looking at Sticky Fingers. I've seen their price list. I'm kind of interested in what their margins look like. So I pull down my Jungle Scout. I pull my listings. For those of you who don't use Jungle Scout, this is kind of what it looks like. You can edit the information that you pull and everything. So it pulls all the data that you'd like to need, that you'd like could ever need, and you can kind of decide which stuff you want to pull. So once I pull that, we're going to export it here to a price sheet, and I just kind of edit it down so I don't get so overwhelmed with everything I'm looking at. Right now I'm not really looking towards the estimated sales and revenue. Just want to look at some hard numbers really quick. So we're going to hide these. So this is that net profit column that Robin was talking about. So as we can see, some of these are in packs of 2, packs of 3. So I can kind of glance and I can see, okay, so if I pay $3 for each of these, and this comes in a 2-pack, my cost before anything is going to be $6. So the net is about 10. So it leaves me about $3.57 for packing, shipping from them, and then me shipping to Amazon as well. So just to kind of give you an idea of what Robin means when she says kind of eyeballing it. But other ones of these over here, I can see maybe the 6-pack over here. That looks like it's right at wholesale cost. But just to kind of give you guys an idea, this is what we're doing when we're kind of running our eyes through it. And if I see enough things in here that I like I see a lot of variations, and I think, I could probably do something with this. Then I go through and I begin the process of running those numbers. This is just kind of like a soft look, and then we go into the process of the hard numbers. Did that make sense? Robin's coming back on. So just to kind of give you guys a little bit of an idea what it is that we're looking at in that process. I got a lot of questions about that, so I hoped that cleared up a couple things for you.
Yeah, so I think that answered some of the questions. And let's see. So I have Mary wanted to know, how can you tell if it's a good product by purchasing just 2? So when we talk about, creating a test buy, we want to try to usually buy 3, and we want to buy 3 so that we can see an established pattern. So if you are really seasoned, you probably can buy in 6 to 12 without a bigger problem. If you're brand new to wholesale, then 3 to 6 would be where I would like to see you would be. I don't recommend buying more than 24, because then 24, even a $5 product, then we're looking at $70, $80 that you have tied up. We'd like to see a smaller amount first, and then if you buy 3 items even, and we see that you send them in, and over a week you sell 2, then we know that it's not going to be a super fast moving item. So we're probably going to order maybe only 12 or 24 for the first big wholesale order. Now, if I send 3 in and they all sell the first day, then that gives me an indication that that's going to have a higher velocity, so that we want to purchase more of it. And so maybe we're going to buy 36 to start, and we still try to stay conservative. And then what we're going to be doing as you're restocking these items is we want to so you're restocking what's sold out, so that you always keep 4 to 8 weeks in stock. Now, when I say 4 to 8 weeks in stock, so if you sell let's say you sell 4 a week, 4 times 4 items per week times 4 weeks would be 16. So between 16 and 32 would be where we're going to buy. So usually things are in cases of 12 and 6, so we probably would buy 24. We also are going to be talking about safety stock and the importance of having a safety stock. Safety stock is, so let's say you normally sell, 12 a week, and you know that it takes about 3 weeks from the time that you place the order until the time that it gets checked in at the warehouse. Then you want to make sure that you always have at least 36 in stock, so that and really probably another week beyond that. We want to have that 4 weeks there, so that when you reorder, your items have time to get shipped to you and shipped to Amazon's warehouse, get prepped. So you want to make sure that you have a base level of stock that you keep in there, so that you're not running out of stock, because it's going to help you with your buy box percentages. All right, let's see. Mary wanted to know what our OA RA ratio is. So in this quarter, first and second quarter, we do probably we do a lot of wholesale in this first couple quarters. This year is a little wonky because we've been moving some things around. But in years past, I would say in quarters 1 and 2, we were probably 70% wholesale. Now in quarter 4, we're usually very retail arbitrage heavy. We don't do a ton of online arbitrage because we're impatient and we don't like things coming damaged, and we found that we got a lot of damaged items. So that was that question. And then somebody wanted to know the website for the Academy, and that's Unstoppable, AmazonAcademy.com.
I posted that in there too.
Okay.
So just in case you guys missed that, I do have some of these questions answered, so there's a little bit of follow-up with that.
Okay. And let's see. And some people were asking when the bi-weekly sessions are going to be, and we're going to be doing 5:30 Pacific Standard Time every other Tuesday, and that starts the 29th. They will all be recorded, and if we find a couple items, a couple people that, if we have a majority of people that need an extra Q&A session, then we will, we always try to take care of you. You can ask other people who've been involved. And I see Xander on the line, my favorite friend here. And he said, at least I'm thinking it's Xander. And he's a 10-year-old who did $10,000 in Q4. So you guys, he's a rock star. And he bought a product, identified himself as an Amazon seller, was fine. And then when he listed it on Amazon, the manufacturer demanded I take it down, even though I bought it from a distributor, and nowhere on the invoice did it say I can't sell on Amazon. So have you ever had that happen to you before? We have had that happen buying it directly from the manufacturer, because before you run any of the lists, that's one thing that I missed. You always want to make sure that there's nothing in the reseller agreement that says you can't sell on Amazon. You don't want to waste your time, right? But we actually had somebody, we talked to one of the people, they said it was fine. And then the owner of the company called me screaming because I had these silly baby blankets that didn't even move that great, listed on Amazon. And so, there's not much that, you didn't, as long as you didn't violate an agreement, in my mind, I would say, well, I checked and I asked and I was told it was fine. As soon as I sell through, I won't buy any more unless you would like to buy my stock. If you'd like to purchase my stock from me, I can have it shipped to you. But other than that, there's not much I can do. And just to let you know, and this is what I offered her, I said, if you'd like to purchase my stock, I can send you a PayPal invoice. I can have the item sent from Amazon to your back to you. If you wanted to reimburse me my cost of my shipping and the prep, that's fine. If you want to get them off, I understand that. But I will tell you that sometimes when things come back from the Amazon warehouse, they might not be in sellable condition. So you can either wait for me to sell through, or you can buy them, I'll let you buy them back at the cost. And so I try to keep things on the nice side. Now, there are probably people who would be more like, well, you can't tell me what to do for sale doctrine. There's not much that they can do. But I try to keep things pleasant because sometimes they turn around and once they see that you're on their side, then they might change their mind. So I don't know if that answers your question, Xander, but let me know if it doesn't, or I don't know, that might be your mom on there too. Um,
I saw Diane's question. That's definitely happened to us. I was actually talking to a client today about ordering something from a wholesaler, then it gets back ordered, then you're out. We were playing this game kind of back and forth with them quite frequently where we're ordering it and then we'd send it in and then it'd get out on Amazon, then we try to order more and they'd be back ordered. So what we tried is we ended up ordering a large order. And very soon after that, I think Amazon came in on the listing. And then that sinking feeling set in where I was like, oh, no, I ordered too much now. So then we really put into a process where we said, okay, we need to be figuring out how much we're selling so we can make correct orders. So if I know that they regularly run out of this item, I can ask them directly, how often do you guys get this in? Because usually there's a schedule or the manufacturer, oh, we can order these every 6 weeks or so. So then I can project how many I am selling per week. And you can do this method by using the inventory health report. And I want to stock up for X amount of weeks. So say you place your wholesale orders every month or every 6 weeks. And then what you do is you can project how many you need to order. And then you can kind of try and avoid those shortfalls.
And, I think that, we bring up a really great point. It's not like we came into this knowing these things. We're giving you the benefit of really a lot of very expensive mistakes.
There's always a story behind the lesson.
Yeah, like those warnings, you're like not for external use, and or only for external use, and it's like a curling iron, and you're, whatever, these look weird, like not for, for oral consumption, and it's like hemorrhoid cream. You're like, who caused that warning? So, a lot of those things came from us. And so, there were some things like, where Nate's in charge of repricing and Rochelle generally preps the reorders. So what was happening is Nate would reprice something that wasn't moving to get it to sell through. And Rochelle would see that it had moved. And so she would order more. And then Nate would see it in the inventory and he'd say, we just got rid of that stuff. How can we have more? So that's when we started to create a blacklist. And we have a blacklist of brands that so when he reprices something so that we're trying to get rid of it, we don't accidentally restock that same SKU thinking, wow, it just sold great this week. So, those are some of the things that we have, and keeping the notes in this, in some sort of way. You could also, if you could, I think that probably for most of us, just keeping a note in the spreadsheet would be fine. If you have like a really crazy big team with like 50 VAs, then you could use something like Basecamp or Asana, something like that to keep track of it. But I think that probably would be a little overkill.
We just use a Dropbox folder, like a common Dropbox folder or a spreadsheet. So even though, Nate and I see each other fairly frequently because we work together all the time, sometimes I don't want to have to text him and say, hey, is this item on the blacklist? So we have a central location for everything. We have just in case measures. So even if you work with just your partner or your friend or your mom or your brother, if they were sick or something were to happen, you want to be able to replace that person as easily as possible. So even though you may only work with one other person you're very close with, you always want to have a backup plan. So if that person works on certain tasks, they should always have a backup in it in a shared folder that you have access to. So no one's ever left, kind of in a rut.
And Helene asked about, can you get the price sheet before setting up an account? In general, if you're at a trade show, yes, you can. Usually, our experience is if you're trying to reach out to them from like a no-show trade show, no-show, where you're not attending the show, you're just reaching out to the brand. Generally, you're probably going to have to set up an account before you get the price sheet. That's why that disqualification process is so important, because we were seeing before we put that in the process, when we were working closely one-on-one with people and with mentoring students, we were finding that they were spending time chasing the wrong price lists. So that disqualification process really helps speed things up. And then what we'll be doing in the sessions is we're going to be teaching you guys the process, because you need to do it just long enough to know how to have other people, how you can manage other people. So you need to know how many emails you're going to need to be sending, those kind of things. You want to have practice doing it. Once you have the skill, then we're going to be talking about now how do we outsource some of the things to a virtual assistant, because we don't want to have a virtual assistant making buying decisions for us. That's one thing that I don't like about some of the way that some people do online arbitrage, is because the sourcing, the deciding what to buy, that's the hardest part of our business. And all magic comes with a price. So anytime you outsource the most important part of your business, there could be some fallout from that. So what we're doing is we're focusing on training the virtual assistants to help you gather the data. And then you're the one that, once they bring you the data, you're just sorting to see the data set that you need and then making your buying decision off of that.
So did you want to pick someone for the coaching? I don't want you to forget. I know
Yes.
everyone's probably waiting here.
So I'm going to just scroll up and down, and then as long as it's not somebody like you.
I'm going to make Twilight music, and then when I stop, you have to stop.
Okay.
Okay, ready?
Okay.
Do 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 do.
Julia Winka, actually. Julia Winka, so she gets the free coaching hour, and then we should do the 2 reimbursement evaluations. So let's go ahead, do it again.
Ready?
Yeah.
Do 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 do.
Trevor Greer, you get a reimbursement evaluation, and then one more.
Do 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 do
Somebody.
do do do.
Let's see. Jill Kelly, you get an evaluation, a reimbursement evaluation as well. We just verified today that you can do it without giving us all your product information. So send an email to Rochelle, ROCHELLE, at bestfromthenest.com, and she will get you set up with that. So congratulations to our winners. Is there anybody else that has like a dying, burning question? All right. So I think that is it for tonight. I want to thank you guys for your time. It was just about perfect, about an hour and 7 minutes. So thank you guys for spending the time with us. And if you guys have any questions, if there's ever anything we can do to support you, we're really committed that everybody in our community has a chance to get, everything they need to be successful. And we look forward to working with you. Good night, guys.